Hello and welcome back to the latest developments in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We see here that the Israeli forces has launched a limited offensive in the direction of Gaza. This is unlike what we have seen in the past two nights where the Israelis launched night raids. This one is much larger than what we have seen so far. It started off with the Israelis cutting all of the communication within the Gaza Strip, after which they launched a massive air raid where they bombarded the whole Gaza Strip, as is seen in this picture right here and these videos that follow. So we are seeing that there's heavy bombardments all throughout the Gaza Strip. This continued for about 4 hours, after which the Israeli forces launched attacks from 3 different directions: to the north of the Gaza Strip towards the Gaza city itself, to the east of the Gaza Strip towards the Nusayrat camp, and to the south of the Gaza Strip in the direction of Khan Yunis. So these 3 areas were heavily assaulted by Israeli soldiers and tanks. And so far, there's been reported heavy clashes between the Hamas soldiers and the Israeli forces. Both of these factions are fighting heavy fights as they face off against each other. The Israeli forces are likely looking here for an assault that prepares for their main ground offensive. According to the Israeli defense spokesperson, this is not their main ground offensive, this is in preparation of it. And if we look at the gains they've made so far, we're seeing that they are trying to advance towards the city areas. They're trying to push the Hamas fighters away from the outskirts of the cities towards the city itself. And that is what we're seeing is a result of the storming of the Gaza positions by the Israeli forces. We're seeing that they're trying to push them away from the fields to the north of the Gaza city in the eastern direction of Burej, where we're seeing that it is less populated compared to other areas. And this is likely an attempt to cut off Gaza from the Nusayrat camp and Burej here to the south of the city. And at the same time, we're seeing fighting by the northeast of Khan Yunis. These are likely operations to pressure the Palestinian forces and prevent them from moving northwards to assist the Palestinian forces here in the Gaza city. So essentially what we're seeing is that the Israeli forces are launching a multi-role operation where they're trying to bombard Palestinian positions all across the Gaza Strip and then pressure them in the northern parts by launching assaults, and in the southern parts by keeping them there to prevent them from reinforcing the north. This is all an attempt to isolate the Palestinian forces in the north. However, they also report that the Palestinian tunnels go as deep as 70 meters underground and covers about 500 kilometers. So it is one of the largest tunnel networks in the whole world, and the Palestinians are actively using these to move between the north and southern parts of the Gaza Strip. Essentially what we're seeing is this is a major offensive, but not the main one, as the Israeli forces are making use of the numerical superiority to attack the Hamas fighters in 3 different directions, spreading them out and pressing them on all sides. We also see that this was all an attempt to catch the Hamas fighters off guard by continuously delaying this ground offensive, and now we're seeing the initial parts of the offensive taking place. I'll be linking to my full analysis that I did a couple days back in the description and is the pinned comment to get a better insight on what is actually happening and my full analysis on that. So the current situation is that the Israeli is ongoing with an offensive operations that started this night, where they are launching multiple attacks on multiple axes against the Gaza forces. They're launching attacks with air forces, followed by an assault with infantry and tanks to try and get a foothold within the Gaza Strip. The past 2 nights where we saw night assaults by the Israeli forces that were infantry and tanks that were following armored bulldozers creating a path in northern Gaza is likely to create the initial stages and the preparations for this ground assault, where we're now seeing them entering in the northern parts from the checkpoint areas. So essentially what we're seeing is that they're trying to push them back to the urban areas of the Gaza city. It is similar in the eastern part, where they're trying to push the Hamas forces from the borderlines towards Burej, and in the southern parts trying to pressure the Gazan forces back to the Khan Yunis area. As a reaction to all of this, the United Nations held an emergency meeting where they made an instantaneous vote on a resolution to call for an instant ceasefire in this conflict. The resolution passed with 120 votes, which is exactly 2/3, which is necessary for a resolution to pass, and as such, it is an official resolution adopted by the United Nations. The Israelis reacted to it, saying they will not uphold it, and therefore the fighting will continue, and according to the Israeli forces, they will continue until all of Hamas is destroyed. This is a major cause and risk for escalation, as we are now seeing as a result of this limited ground assault on Gaza. Most Muslim countries in the region, including Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey, are having major demonstrations all across the countries. In Turkey specifically, there's heavy demonstrations where the population is launching fireworks into the Israeli embassy, and there's a lot of anger on the streets as they call for help and assistance to Gaza and the population there. Hamas is of course not taking all of this lying down. They're facing off against the Israeli forces and heavy clashes are taking place. They claim to already have destroyed 20 Israeli tanks in this assault, and more fighting is taking place as we speak. There's heavy clashes between the Israeli and Hamas forces, especially in the northern parts, but also here in the eastern and central parts of the Gaza Strip. This is all taking place as the Israeli forces are trying to push through the Palestinian defenses in the cover of their air support, but the Palestinians have heavy fortifications prepared and many tunnels, allowing them to withstand the Israeli airstrikes and still be able to fight back. The cutting of communications are posing a whole nother risk at the civilian population in Gaza, as the humanitarian organizations are losing contact with each other and the civilian population is unable to call emergency services to be able to help the civilian casualties resulting from the airstrikes, and as such we're seeing and going to see a lot more civilian casualties this night than any of the nights before. So as a result of this and the increased civilian casualties, we're seeing an increasing risk of escalation between the Israeli-Gaza conflict and the surrounding countries. The United States has sent approximately 2 additional aircraft carriers to the Mediterranean Sea, and they already have about 2 in the Arabian/Persian Gulf to the east and south of Iran. And with that, they have approximately 4 aircraft carriers in the Middle East. This is a huge escalation on the United States part, as it is essentially half of their fleet in the Middle East. This combined with the threat that if any other countries get involved, then the United States will support Israel directly with military aid and the use of their aircraft carriers to defend the Israeli airspace. So the current situation is extremely dangerous, as there is risks of a major regional war unfolding in this direction, and the Israeli refusal of the ceasefire demanded by the United Nations means that this conflict will not end, as the Israelis have doubled down on their goals, which is to essentially destroy all of Hamas. To get a full and complete overview of the whole situation, make sure to check out the video which will be on the screen right now, where I analyze the whole situation as well as previous wars where the Israelis have launched invasions against both Lebanon and Gaza. So with this, we are likely to see an escalation in this conflict, whether it be just Hezbollah joining and the United States helping the Israelis, or something much bigger. I cannot tell, but it is definitely a very dangerous situation. And that is going to be all for this update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.